Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight and welcome our online audience as well. Pastor Tom's unable to be with us tonight. We'll be talking about some of the news updates that we have around the world, and then we'll be backing out of that and going into our DVD series that we're working with on Jonathan Cahn's book. I'd like to open with prayer. Heavenly Father, we are so thankful to be where we are. We are so thankful, Lord, for all the blessings you're bestowing upon us, including the beautiful weather and the rain. And we just ask, Lord, tonight there's storms coming through that they will moderate and not be damaging to people. Lord, we are so thankful that we are still living in a free country where we can voice our opinion, and we are free from the physical persecution that our brethren are having around the rest of the world, especially those in Africa. They are so stressed and so persecuted, both mentally and physically, Lord, and our prayers are with them. We ask, Lord, that you will keep a protective hedge around them. Lord, watch us tonight and guide our words and guide our study. And we pray, Lord, that we're able to come back and praise and worship you on Sunday. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay, I have to work off my computer tonight since I couldn't get my printer working. So anyhow, we'll start out in the Mideast like we normally do. I think last week I mentioned that Syria was having war games. It's really funny. Not funny, but it's ironic, I guess, that Israel started attacking Syrian army this week. They're on the north side. They are attacking because Hezbollah and the Syrian army are working hand in hand, which they always have, I think. But Israel's actually attacking Syrian army units. The other thing that's happened, we were just talking before we came online here, that things are quickening so fast. It seems like we kind of went through a little bit of a lull here for a few weeks. Now the wheels are turning quicker again. Hezbollah fired, day before yesterday, fired 100 rockets in 2 minutes. And that's a bunch. You stop and think about it. That's about one, you're looking at just almost one a second for 2 minutes. And I think 60 some of them fell in uninhabited areas. That's the ones that the Iron Dome lets go through, and because it's not going to strike any structure. But there were a couple of structures, and I think there may have been one fatality, I can't remember, but there was some damage. Israel's striking Lebanon. They struck a base in Lebanon this week, 100 kilometers, which is, 60 miles inside Lebanon. That's a pretty good distance, because you got to remember when we're talking these numbers, the distances between Israel and Jordan and Syria and Lebanon, none of these countries are real large. Not, we think about the United States and the states here. It's a small area. The whole area right there we're talking about would fit inside the Midwest. So when we say they're flying further into the airspace into Lebanon to make strikes, 60 miles, 100 kilometers, pretty good distance. So anyhow, it's Hezbollah and the Ramadan, which started Sunday at sundown. The terrorists are calling for an increased jihad during this time. And so far it's starting to pick up. The interesting thing that I picked up this week was there's so many of the terrorist leaders, the Muslim leaders in the Mideast, especially Iranian, Lebanese, and Syria, things of those natures, the imams they have over there are calling for jihadists to arise here in the States and start, and they're asking that the terrorists that are here in the country, which we know there's quite a few, they're trying to spur them to make terrorist attacks here in the States, especially during Ramadan. So it could be an interesting period here in the next few weeks, which we assumed was going to happen. At the same time, we see the United States backing further and further away from Israel. Biden, and well, it's two things, because I added a note to this just before I came in. It's really interesting. I think it was Nasrallah, who's one of the heads over in the Mideast on the Muslim side. He was talking about Biden, and he said Biden's not afraid of anything except losing the election this fall. And he says, and that's the biggest asset they have at this time. And out of that, yesterday I read where the White House was setting up a meeting with the Muslims in Chicago to just strictly talk to them about what was going on. And this is the anti-Semitic protests and threats and stuff in Chicago is really getting out of hand. There was even a concert, I can't remember the young man's name, but he's Jewish. He canceled his concert because of the threats that were being made up there. What's really, really ironic now, I just read just this afternoon, they were supposed to meet today, White House was. What came out, the Muslim groups refused to meet with the White House. They didn't want to meet with the White House, Biden people. And the reason being, they're trying to pressure Biden to force Israel into a ceasefire. Now, you look at the other thing that's happened, I think yesterday or this morning, Chuck Schumer, head of the Democratic, he's the speaker, or he's the head of the Senate, he come out and he unloaded on Netanyahu and Israel. He's calling for new elections in Israel. Now stop and think about that. We got a U.S. senator meddling in the election and trying to get him to force an election on Netanyahu. At the same time, there has been some polls made in Israel of the everyday Israeli. 75% of them support what Bibi Netanyahu's doing in Gaza. And so you've got this dichotomy here of where the Western world, and especially the United States, is trying to force a regime change in Israel, all because they want a ceasefire in Gaza. And the Israelis know that if they back off of what they're doing in Gaza, if they don't go into Rafah and take the rest of Hamas out, it's been a wasted effort. The people are into it, even to the point, well, it's just like, let's shift from Gaza up to the northern border. There was a group of mayors that up there, they had to move, or they evacuated the Israelis from the border back down off Lebanon and Syria because of the rocket threats that were coming in. Well, those mayors are in conjunction came out and they're telling the Israeli army, if you want to go to war today against Damascus, against Syria and Lebanon, we're all for it. And they're right there on the border. So you can see that, it's obvious to see the support of the people in Israel for what's going on in Gaza. And they're ready to take Lebanon on, or take Hezbollah on in the north. But yet you've got Chuck Schumer, you've got the president. The president said, this was, I thought was really interesting. They came out, Biden steps up and says, well, if Israel goes into Rafah without doing something about the protecting the civilians and everything, that's a red line, and I'm going to cut back arms shipments to Israel. That was his words. Well, today, they backtracked a little bit, and they said, well, if you go into Rafah and it's specific attacks, that might be okay. Yeah, so you've just got, it's such a two-faced, yeah, it's so two-faced, it's just unbelievable. But our government's just making fools out of themselves. They said, like I said today, they said targeted attacks in Rafah may be okay. So I think they're backtracking. The big thing that you're seeing in Gaza, and it's probably a little bit of both, but you're seeing a concentrated effort by the UN, the United States, and the rest of the Western world, demonizing Israel because they say they're starving the Gazans to death. Well, if you look at the data that I've seen, Amar Safarti does a good job of providing solid information, and Israel does. Here's two good examples. One, the poster child right now, if you haven't seen it, is this poor little white-skinned boy. He's laying in bed, he's just skin and bones, and the headline is, Israelis starve another child. The boy is diseased. They verified I forget what disease he has, but it's a wasting away. The other thing was a picture they were using early in the week of starving kids was taken in Somalia in 2014.
Just more deception.
Yeah, it's the point I was going to make sure it's all fake news. And so, but they're doing that and they're driving that because they're driving the humanitarian thing real hard. Of course, we've got a ship on the way over there to put a port in. The interesting thing is this, they're wanting to put a port in. There's actually a port already there 4 miles down the beach from where they're going to put this one in. What's the rationale on that? I have no idea. But it's all a gimmick by the Biden administration to make themselves look good.
So who's it going to be manned by? The Gazans?
It's a good question. That's a good question. Nobody's answered that question yet. That question's been asked. The question's been asked, well, are we going to have boots on the ground? And the answer, oh no, we're not going to have boots on the ground. And then the other question is, well, what are you doing to keep the goods from going to Hamas? And the other thing is, I saw an interview of some of the Gazans. They were saying, quit sending this crap over here to us. They sent, I forget how many, I think it was like 64,000 ready-to-eat meals. What is? People won't eat it. And they said, send us flour. We want to make bread. And so it's just, it's just such a messed up thing. Any questions in the Mideast before we go on? The other thing is, one big thing that's maybe be going on is Erdogan, the president of Turkey, he's on his way to Iran. Supposed to be a big meeting going on between Turkey and Iran. So that, when you see things like that, that's what your antenna should go up a little bit because that's Ezekiel 38-39 stuff, the Ezekiel war. And because both Iran and Turkey will be involved in that. Let's jump up to Europe for a minute. On the Ukrainian thing, the Russians and the Ukrainians are both going at it pretty hot and heavy. Ukraine knows their back is against the wall plus. I mean, they're on the downside. So they're trying to strike as much as they can. They're trying to make hay while they can. There's most of the conflict, most of the damage that's happening in Russia, and has been some damage. They damaged a large oil refinery, set it on fire. There's been some other damage done. And what it is, this is small pro-Ukrainian, anti-Russian groups that's along the border between Ukraine and Russia. Some of the disputed area even. So it's been more of like guerrilla type warfare rather than their army. Their army is not getting much done, and Russia is smacking them pretty hard. I thought it was interesting that you pick up on the Pope this week. He's telling Ukraine that they should wave the white flag and negotiate, and that created a big bunch of heartburn around the world. But yeah, the Pope was calling for Ukraine to sit down and negotiate. The other thing that was interesting, there hasn't been any verification on it yet. The other day, I think last week, I think it was on Thursday when we was here, we talked about that Russia had taken out some Abrams tanks and some Patriot missile systems. They took out 2 Patriots. Well, Russia's claiming there was U.S. soldiers killed in that strike. And there's been no proof on it one way or the other, but I have no doubt we've got people on the ground over there and have had probably from day one. That's about all that's going on in Europe, other than I'll catch on a little bit back on Europe when I get into some world news. But the farmer strikes are still continuing. They're really scrambling over there. The NATO countries are trying to figure out how they're going to deal with Russia. And there's no clear-cut answers to that right now. And there's a lot of a disarray in NATO right now. Jump over to China. I thought it was interesting to note that we now have between 100 and 200 Green Berets in Taiwan. I don't know where you picked that up on news or not. We've got boots on the ground over there. And that's China continuing all the time to, preface themselves for taking over Taiwan. There's no doubt that they've still got it in mind. You have a question, Sherry?
My brain's just tinkering away because it seems like this country has had themselves so in the midst of these wars that all I can see is that I feel like that we have done so much to induce these wars.
Yeah.
And to keep them going because they're filtering this money. And I don't know who it's filtering to, but we have a suspicion
Yeah.
that half of it probably isn't going to where we think,
You think it
they
is.
say that it's going.
Yeah.
Plus the hiding amidst thousands of pages of these, bills or whatever that
Yeah.
they, present, that, now it was like, even Bishop was talking about, China's population last night. Did you catch that? And he was talking about how India now has surpassed China.
In numbers.
And you know why that is, in my opinion? It's because all they have is men.
Yeah.
They can't reproduce.
Yeah. And the point Sherry makes is well taken in that the United States has had their hand in so much of the setting up the conflicts that we have today. Obviously Ukraine's prime example. That was set up totally by Obama, and the process that we have going on in China and Taiwan now, a lot of that's been due to the United States meddling. And here's a new one. Where did we send Marines yesterday? Haiti. We've got Marines on the ground in Haiti trying to evacuate people. I talked about earlier, well, actually 4 or 5 months ago, that Haiti was on target to really have major problems, and they have. It's all come to fruition what we talked about back, I think this was back like Thanksgiving. If I look back on my notes, we were talking about things that looked like how they were progressing in Haiti. They have. And they can't even get people they can't even agree on how to even set up an interim government. And so it's a mess now. Here's the thing to watch for now. Because the handwriting's on the wall, you're going to see a large influx of Haitians in the United States as immigrants. And here's the thing. This point is totally 100% accurate. And it's not just here, it's in other parts of the world. Migration is being used as a weapon, totally, and especially here in the States. That's why you see the UN, you see China, you see Iranians. All of our enemies have been shipping people to South America, Central America, to get them to migrate in the United States, because over time, if you flood it enough, it's going to break the bank. It probably already has. And we just haven't seen the results of it totally yet. You're talking about China. Yeah, India has surpassed China as the most populated country in the world. The other thing that's happening in China right now, we've talked about China has some economic problems. Here's a prime example. There's a article I read on how the extracurricular activities in China have nosedived, meaning that things kids do when they get out of school, play ball, go to the gym, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Music lessons, dancing lessons, all this type of stuff is nosedived. Probably 1, 2 reasons, or maybe both. One is the economy is falling so flat, people don't have the money to spend on it. And the other thing is, it's probably an indication of how the Chinese government is prepping for war. They're getting everything they're doing, everything is, and we talked about this a year ago. Xi Jinping come out and started telling these people, and it was in print. You can read it. I get a daily news feed off of a newspaper called The Globe, I think it is. It's a Chinese newspaper run by the government. It's a PRC news thing. Over a year ago, there was articles in there of Xi Jinping telling these people, you need to prepare for war. The United States is going to make us go to war. And they're blaming it all on the United States. But they've been telling their people to prepare for war. Xi Jinping, over the last year, has replaced almost all of his top military commanders. The reason he did that's because now they're all replaced by his people. Before then, they weren't all his people. He's got his people in place now. And everything they're doing is preparatory to go to war if they have to. So, I mean, it shouldn't be any surprise. Here at home, like I taught, one thing I made a comment about, illegals are being used as a weapon. There's no doubt about that. And it's all the cities, especially the big cities, have come to great understanding they don't have money to take care of these people. And the Fed's not providing the money other than the cards they give out to them. And that fuels inflation. Did you see the inflation report yesterday? The inflation was twice what it was expected to be. I made this comment a couple of times. I think I said it last week. There is no way for inflation to slow down until the government quits spending money. Because they're spending money we do not have. They're creating that. Our national debt is going up by $1 trillion every 100 days. And I can't even fathom what a trillion is. I mean, it's just beyond where I could wrap my head around these numbers anymore. But there again, this can't go on forever.
Well, you know
And it won't.
how it's been made public that they are giving him, what, $2,000, a credit card,
Yeah.
so forth. I just saw it on,
Yeah, we talked about,
just before I came here.
Yeah.
I was watching something on, I forget.
We talked about
What it
that
was
last
now.
week because
Yeah.
it was showing the comparison to the average Social Security check being like $1,400 a
Yeah.
month, and that being
they get
There are
2,000
people
initially.
trying to take advantage
Yeah,
of this, because what I was watching a while ago was reporting that it's a known fact that in Nevada, a lot of these immigrants are going and staying in Chinese massage parlors in Nevada, and they're charging anywhere from $35 to $45 a night for them to stay there. Because it's all been made public now that
Yeah.
they've got a little bit of money on it.
yeah. Yeah, we talked a little about this last week. They get $2,000 initially, and then every month after that, they get a stipend added to that card based on how many members are in that group. And so, see, that's what we talked about last week. That's what's fueling some of the inflations, because these people are spending that money. You look at the small businesses in New York, they're tickled to death about it. The little stores, the restaurants and stuff, because these people are spending the money. And so that's where the inflation's coming from. Although, you know, and I don't know where it came from, because I haven't paid that much attention to oil prices, other than I know OPEC decided that they are going to continue decreasing their output. Gas went down 10 cents a gallon. I saw $3.39 Monday. It's $3.59 today. Went down a dime, went up. So it's, the inflation, Biden can talk all he wants to about, and they can try to spend all this that it's under control.
Biden don't have to go to the grocery store either, does he?
Didn't know.
Doug, did you see that thing about the
Take
state of
him on a trip
Illinois?
one day.
Is it going to repeal their action, provide non-US citizens with health insurance. They just said they can't afford it.
Yeah.
So 6,000 people are gonna,
Yeah. Jeff brings up a point about they're repealing some laws in Illinois because they're realizing that the system cannot afford what they've had in place trying to take care of all these people. So you're going to see more and more of that. Here's the thing, and we'll jump into some world news here. Watch for this stuff. It's like I made this statement. I can't remember exactly what it was in regards to once before, but Ernest Hemingway had a book that I've read a couple times, and you've probably read it too. It was required reading, I think, one of my English college classes, The Death of a Salesman. And, you know, it's a familiar thing. Well, there's two characters in that book, and they're sitting there talking. They're talking about the one guy going bankrupt. And he said, "How'd you go bankrupt?" And he says, "Well, a little at a time and then all at once." All right. That's the type of things be prepared for now, and especially with this AI. AI is just, we haven't even broke the surface of this thing yet, all right? But every day you see more and more coming out. Here's what's going to happen. This is going to sneak up on us, and then bang, just like the guy going bankrupt. You get a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, and then bam, the whole dike breaks. That's exactly what's going on with this artificial intelligence thing. And it's really funny because it's too late, too little too late. Europe, in the European Union, they just passed a law trying to control the company, getting the companies to control the advancement of this stuff. Well, that's a joke. We're trying to do the same thing here in Congress right now. They're trying to pass a law where they can have some pressure on the companies developing this stuff to maintain control of it. It's not going to happen.
I was just about to bring up AI to you when you brought it up because Trump has a social platform called Truth Social, and he had posted on Truth Social yesterday, the Her report was revealed today, a disaster for Biden, a two-tiered standard of justice. Artificial intelligence was used by them against me in their videos of me.
Yeah.
Can't do that, Joe.
Yeah, yeah. So it's, you know,
Coming.
it's here. That's the thing. And you're going to see a rapid increase in this stuff. You're going to see a rapid increase in public relation to the illegal immigration, but it's too little too late. And same thing with this AI stuff. You're going to see people, you know, getting all upset and sideways about that. Doesn't matter, folks, too little too late. You know, we started talking about this stuff almost 2 years ago, and we're 2 years into this now. And, you know, the ChatGPT, when that came out, that was kind of a big deal. That's history. That is ancient history now. Those type programs are. Things are so much more sophisticated. And we're seeing this stuff on a daily basis.
It's the same thing with the border now. It's too little
Too little, too late, yeah. Damage is done, yeah. So just expect that. That's the way things happen. It's no different than when this country became electrified. You just had these small places, and the next thing you know, it's everywhere. Drive through Fayette County and look at all the orange pipelines that are laying in the ground. They're running fiber cable through this whole county, and they're doing it quickly. And that's the thing. We've gone from not having hardly any coverage at all, and we're going to wake up here real quick, and everybody in the county is going to have
We're gonna be lit up.
fiber optic available overnight. They're going to turn the switch on, boom, it happens. And that's the type of things we're going to experience as we get into the computer age has just started. We think we're into it so far, and everybody's looking. It's going to completely change our lives. So just be prepared for that. And with that, I had one more thing covered before I do that. It's amazing, and I'm sure AI's got a place in this. We were talking about, I think a week or so ago, how they're on John Kerry comes back from the climate summits and stuff, and they're saying, yeah, we got to get rid of these animals, and you need to put pressure on the companies. And you see Letitia James up in New York filing suit against the largest beef manufacturer in the world, JBS. all of a sudden, I think it was maybe Saturday or Sunday, I started seeing, I don't know, 2 to 4 articles a day from different parts of the world, all focusing on animal agriculture, how we can get by without beef. And just things of that nature every day. And that's been happening all this week. Ever since the weekend, I'll see 2 to 4 a day of things that's specific to trying to get rid of meat production around the world, not just here in the States. And there's a big thing about now they're wanting to, here's the thing, they're saying, here's the reason. Big thing is go free up land so we can raise more grain. And it's going to reduce the methane. Like I said here a few weeks ago, methane's now the big ugly gorilla in the room. It's not the carbon. They've gotten off the carbon kick. It's now methane, everything you read. And supposedly 10% of all the methane in the world comes from cattle. So but here it is, it's showing how the media is totally manipulated and is a coordinated attack. Because like I'm talking about on these things I'm seeing, I'm reading articles out of the European Union, and at the same time I'm getting articles in the United States. There was another article out of Argentina, and it's just all within a matter of 2 or 3 days, all these articles, all with the same type theme. So it's completely manipulated and coordinated. So be prepared for that. I want you to go to Joshua chapter 1. Give me a second here to... Chapter 1, verse 9. So regardless of how fast things occur, here's what Joshua has to say. Have I not commanded thee, be strong and of a good courage, be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed, for the Lord thy God is with thee, whithersoever thou goest. So, if you get feeling a little down about some of this stuff, just pull Joshua 1:9 up. And, it's easy for us to get caught up in this stuff. We worry about family, we worry about each other, and we worry about neighbors and what's going to happen if this happens. There's really no reason to be worrying about this stuff. I was talking to someone last night, and I said it's taken me, I've turned 75 this year, and it's taken me most of those years to get to the point where I've learned to live one day at a time. And once you get there, it sure makes your life a lot more pleasant and makes things, puts everything in perspective. You get up, you deal with what's going on today, and that, once you get to that point to where you can do that on a regular basis, and I'm not saying every day I wake up and I don't think about what ifs, okay? I read this news and stuff, and I do, the thoughts occur, but I don't react to it. I don't get mad, I don't get upset, and it's just, as Pastor and I have talked for years now, you kind of put it in the position that it's a chess game. God's playing chess. And it's interesting to try to figure out maybe what his next move is. So that's the interesting part. But you've got to get to the point to where stuff's just got to roll off your back.
Well, I think the Lord wants us to keep focused on him.
Yeah.
Because when we stay focused on him, that's where we find our peace. Because for one thing, we're not promised tomorrow.
Yeah.
So when we get into that living into tomorrow and everything, that's the reason why he tells us to worry about nothing and pray about everything.
Yeah.
Is that in each day, we see the provision and the promises that God has given to us. Doesn't mean that, we don't necessarily you know, from time to time get caught up, because we still are in these fleshly bodies, that fear will try
Right.
to set in. But when we take the reassurance of what he says in his words, that he'll never leave us or forsake us,
Yeah.
you know, we have to stay focused on
We,
him.
we got to stay focused on he's not going to leave us or forsake us. Absolutely right, Sherry. Any questions on anything? Sue?
There are some Christian groups out there that are a little bit farther to the right, who, you know, getting their guns and ammo stocked up
Yeah,
so they can protect their homestead,
yeah.
and their wife and kids, and, yeah.
And you know, what Sue brings up, that there's a lot of people on the far right that are stocking up so they can, you know, protect their homes. And I don't have a problem with that. You know, I have the same thing. It's funny. Did you pick up this week at West Point has changed their motto? It used to be duty, honor, and country. And that's not it now. Their new motto is going to be, and part of the oath they take is going to be, they're going to uphold the duties and the, what's the other word? I was trying to think what to use. Army. It's all about what the Army intent is. That's what they took duty, honor, and country out of their oath. And you know, and the thing of it is, and what Sue brings up is an important part. There's a lot of people. I would say most, if you want to call them far right Christians, tend to have that mentality that, you know, it's God and country and family, and yeah, it's just setting the stage for civil unrest, and it's going to be part of it. I believe. I don't have any doubt that's coming. It'll be part of the scenario as this country unwinds.
And they
And-
used to call them, back years ago, they used to call them doomsdayers.
Yeah,
I don't think they're calling them that so much now, do you?
yeah, the doomsdayers.
All the militias.
Yeah,
They're calling them preparing,
yeah. So
preparation.
that's going to be part of the interesting times that we're into, and like I said, just be prepared for the rapidity of these things that they're going to happen. It's going to happen, machine gun action. It's going to go once it starts breaking loose, and I think we're seeing signs of it. I think the focal point will be this election. It may be the firecracker, but when things do break, things are going to happen quickly. So just mentally be prepared for it. That's what I would suggest.